So different, so alive. Clarion introduces new captive color eyeshadow. Different because this special cream powder base goes on first. So color locks on for hours. Unstoppable color, only from the Clarion computer. Captive color eyeshadow. What's wrong with their eyes? Because we don't want you to look kind of nice. We want you gorgeous.
Early records indicate that physicians conducted research on human cadavers to study human anatomy, test diseases, and drugs. Human bodies were dissected by researchers to perceive and compare the human body. While dead bodies were helpful, tissue samples of live humans demonstrated to be more effective in the diseases and medicine field. With the consent of patients, doctors removed tissue samples during surgery. Most people who agreed to experimental treatment were ill people. When vaccines were tried, most cases resulted in death. Even though the patients consented to be experimented on, it was still considered unethical. Those who didn't consent or were never asked were considered under scientific misconduct. Since consent is the main problem and animals can't give consent, trials on animals were first seen 2,000 years ago. Since animal experimentation began, the results have produced the most knowledge of the human body. Animal experimentation consists of makeup testing, infecting them with disease organisms, injecting chemicals, and much more. These animals are kept in dirty, confined quarters, cut open, and fed unhealthy diets. In one instance, a laboratory had capsules full of ticks strapped on the abdomen side of a rabbit. The ticks feast on the rabbit and are later removed and examined to test the efficiency of anti-tick treatment. After the laboratory shut down, the rabbits were adopted to loving homes. However, there are individuals who have taken to the streets to advocate for the rights of these animals. These activists are united by a shared commitment to end the exploration and suffering of these animals. Proof is showcased to demonstrate the length these advocates go to. Compelling signs and impassioned speeches help them to raise their voices in demanding and change and justice for those who cannot speak for themselves. Karen Davis, an animal rights activist and the president of the United Poultry Concerns, puts forth an argument challenging the traditional distinction between higher and lower animals concerning personhood and ethical considerations. Her perspective advocates for extending the concept of personhood to all animals, regardless of their perceived cognitive abilities. Davis argues that such distinctions perpetuate a system of exploitation and ethical disregardation for animals deemed less intelligent. However, when it comes to changing the format of the laws to extend the rights of personhood to all animals, it raises many concerns. One of the main concerns is in regard to the production of food from livestock. Will raising cows and chickens to be eaten be regarded as murder or abuse? Another question that may arise is whether or not the level of intelligence of the animal should be considered when distributing rights. Because of these concerns of many others, it is difficult to argue that changing the status of animals will help them without harming our general society. In contrast to the argument presented by Ms. Davis, Mr. Coop argues that the resolution to the problem lies in the human responsibility rather than the legal personhood for these animals. Coop raises the argument that legal personhood for animals threatens the rights of vulnerable people, those with cognitive impairments, infants, and intellectual disabilities. He also argues that the concept of rights are human and therefore animals cannot be the bearer of rights as they cannot understand the human concept. Rather, he contends that with the passage of time and technological advancements, our comprehension of animals will improve and the law will adapt accordingly. One of the issues that arises with the protection of animals under the law is whether or not all animals should have rights. Should insects like cockroaches and mosquitoes have the same rights as apes? Where do we draw the line to this issue? Also, the evolution of the law tends to be lengthy, leaving the argument that animal abuse is a problem that must be fixed sooner rather than later. Considering both of the arguments made by Davis and Coop, we feel as though animals should not be considered people. However, there should be an active attempt to revise the law to better the protection for these animals. These can include strict regulations for animal testing and husbandry. Also, enhancing the severity of punishments for animal abuse would serve as a deterrent, reducing the likelihood of such crimes occurring initially.